Hello, welcome to Walk in the Park. My name's Tony Ingram, your host, and this is our episode 150. It's recorded on the 2nd of November in 2016. If you want to see all of my shows, you can go to my video blog at walkinthepark.tv. Walkinthepark.tv. A lot of people don't know that that is a website with the .tv, but it is. And this is all recorded on in the studios for PEGASYS, public access television, Time Warner Cable, Ithaca, New York. So today we're going to rush right over to Cayuga Lake. And there's, you can see Ithaca in this map. We go up in the right-hand side of the lake. You might be able to make out a little pin there from this map. We'll zoom in a little bit. And that is an area called Salmon Creek. You see a creek coming down from the upper right. There's a gorge in there. Empties into the lake. It's created this little peninsula, and most people know it as Myers Point, but it's actually a couple of different points. We'll get into that. This is an aerial view of it, probably taken by Bill Heck, the local photographer. Not in the foreground, but in the foreground. The foreground is actually Teganic Point, so we're looking from the northwest and across the lake. About a mile and a half away is Myers Point. Here is another view of it taken by Bill, looking straight across, and you can see coming from the upper left there is a little groove coming down through the hills. That is Salmon Creek. It comes down to the lake, and just on the left-hand side, let's take another view here, different time of year obviously. The left-hand side of the point, you can see that there is a stream coming out. That's Salmon Creek, which has taken a sharp bend to the right after it came off the hill from the upper left, take a sharp bend to its right, heading towards the lower left into the lake. And the left-hand side, the right-hand side of the point is Myers Point. Let's zoom down here and get another look at it here. Myers Point, that's a developed park. There's a marina over there, a beach, boat launch, and so forth. And the other side is a wild area, or at least has been a wild area, Salt Point Natural Area. And so we're going to take a look, a close look at Salt Point, looking straight down on it here now. And it has been developed over the last 4 years or so into a nature park, actually for a lot of different kinds of uses. Another view of it from the south of the 2 points, and here it is distinguishing the two, showing that there are some roads and paths and so forth on Salt Point and Salmon Creek dividing them. So I have a long video here to show you here of a celebration that took place in the middle of October and down at Salt Point, the dedication of a really excellent informational, educational kiosk, interpretive kiosk at Salt Point. So let's go right to that.
Nice opposite the engraving, which is gorgeous.
My name is Ed Lavigne, Lansing Town Supervisor. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you for inviting me to such a wonderful afternoon. I have 5 minutes to talk, and I promise there'll be less than that, which would be a miracle for any politician, but that's where we are. Having said that, we find out that this has a lot of history here, and what you see now wasn't what it was before, and who knows in the next 20 years what we will see won't be what is here now either. One of the things we find out is that this is a constantly evolving area. I mean, when we were here, when I was a younger person, it was called UC Point, named after Utica Club, because it was a different type of area than it is now. And much to the energy and the time and the money of all of the Salt Point volunteers, thank you so much. Thank you for going forth with this. When you first started all these different places where you had to stop traffic from coming, people would come and criticize me, and I told them the one story of the 3 drunk drivers we had in one day, and I don't want to have to spend another dime on another bench naming another after somebody's name because somebody got killed. And because you had the passion and the courage to keep going forward, this is now a much safer place, a much more inviting place. So it's my thank you to you for doing all this. So thank you so much. Having said that, I think this whole area is indicative of what we try to achieve at the town, which is being respectful of each other. We have quite a dynamic different area here. I mean, you have, for instance, you have people that can go out in the boats. You have people that can go fishing. You have people that can go hunting here. You have people that can go bird watching here. You have people that do fireworks here. Yet all those may be somewhat of a conflicting type of formula, and yet when you have the spirit of community first, it works. So that is indicative to your spirit, to your passion to put town first as opposed to your own personal preferences, and I thank you again for that so much. Having said that, we have one more thing I want to do before I say thank you again and goodbye, and that's to introduce one of my dear friends, Steve. I've only known him for half a century, so I'm kind of getting used to him. So I remember when we used to play ball, and I was the catcher, he was the pitcher, and when he was the quarterback, I was the center, and you can't get closer than that, trust me. So having said that, I mean, once again, our rec department is the envy of the whole county, and one of the biggest reasons is the person I'm about to introduce, my dear friend Steve Colt.
Good job, huh? Way too kind. Yeah, there was quite a relationship there. A lot of years. Hey, I got to tell you, I am excited about this. Somebody really listened. We asked for this day. By gosh, somebody was listening. We got it. And what a turnout. I drive down here a lot. Every time I come through here, it amazes me, the resource here, and that it's really a product. This is really the model example of what happens when the private sector and the public sector gets together. It's the way it should be. I'm not a politician. I think of myself more of as a facilitator, and I was so lucky here to have basically an all-star team in our FOSPers, our friends at Salt Point. It's an awesome group, and actually before they came on the scene, there are folks here that, you know, spend an awful lot of time picking up diapers and beer bottles and couches and everything that people left here in the past. So what a great direction this has gone. It truly is amazing, and there's a lot of people to thank for this thing. One of the things that worked out well was the networking between the committee and all the volunteers, and our park crew was able to help out when they could. They were fortunate enough to grab some time and come over and help out. Pat Terrell, Wayne Straw, Rusty Landon cut off every one of these poles. His arms are as big as my legs, and I think he needed them. John Howell, Ray Langlois, and Dennis Griffin, all these people work on my team and matched up with that great all-star team that the FOSP people have, and really made this thing happen. And when you get folks like that aren't getting paid for it, it's special because it gets personal. And I think everybody gets personal with this place, and they look after it, and sometimes you have to keep that needle from going too far one way or too far the other way, but they really do a good job at that, and they look after this place very well. So the next person that's going to be up here to talk with you a little bit is one of the people on that all-star team, and she is our #1 grant writer that made a lot of things happen down here, and hopefully will continue to keep doing that, because so much of what happened down here is not paid for by your very minuscule town tax. And that person is Donna Scott.
Well, thank you, Steve, and welcome everybody. It's great to see everybody here today. I'd like to make a few remarks about the wildlife habitat here at Salt Point, and a little bit about how we decided what to put on this beautiful kiosk. So Salt Point, in just 4 years, has become a safe, quiet place to walk and enjoy birds and nature, and of course beautiful Cayuga Lake. This place gives birds and other wildlife a more natural and mostly undisturbed place to live. And in fact, over 230 species of birds have been found in and around Salt Point. 230. So why is this? Cayuga Lake is 38 miles long, as most of you know. It has steep cliffs bordering its 95 miles of shoreline, and it has very limited flat shoreline with shallow water that is accessible to birds. Salt Point and Myers Park jut out into Cayuga Lake at one of the only shallow water refuges for birds on the east side of the lake. So these shallow lake areas here serve as bird magnets, attracting huge numbers of resident and migrating birds. This whole area, including the Montezuma National Wildlife Refuge up to the north, is part of the Eastern Migratory Flyway. And this comes from the Arctic Ocean to points far south of here. This is a highway in the sky used by millions of migrating birds. This flyway is directly overhead. It's a lot wider than this, but the birds travel right over us. Many migrating birds stop over at Salt Point and Myers to rest and to find food to refuel for the rest of their flight south. Another neat fact about the Cayuga Lake Basin, because of its geology and its many elevations around the basin, it's the northern limit of many southern bird species and the south boundary for some northern bird species. So this results in an interesting mix of birds too. The Friends of Salt Point Committee, or FOSP, is managing Salt Point to provide diverse habitats for nesting and migrating birds. Our landscape practices here at Salt Point include limited mowing. We mow only during the non-breeding season, not too often, and usually after August. No pesticides are used. We're doing a lot of work replanting native trees and shrubs, and we're attempting to remove invasive species of plants. And of course, we're limiting vehicle traffic to the center part of the point. This gives the birds and other wildlife places to nest at the ground level, at medium heights in shrubs, and up at higher levels in the various trees around here. We've put up different kinds of nest boxes, which helps birds who would normally nest in tree cavities. Other birds are found in Salt Point because of the food sources that the diverse unmowed habitat provides. So Salt Point contains a small meadow, lots of bushes, open woodland, and some larger trees. It borders not only Cayuga Lake, which is one kind of habitat, but also Salmon Creek, another type of habitat. So this small but varied landscape provides a good range of different habitats with food, shelter, and nesting places for birds and other wildlife. And by the way, that wild area across the railroad track is part of Salt Point too, up to the crest of the hill. And have to mention the ospreys. Soon after the osprey pole was erected 4 years ago, a family of ospreys took over the nest box, and later they fledged 3 chicks, and they did so in 3 subsequent years. Birders and non-birders alike have been enthralled watching the progress of the osprey family. Bluebirds and tree swallows have nested in some of the nest boxes that were erected in the meadow area. In fact, Steve Colt told me 15 minutes after they put up the first bluebird boxes, there were bluebirds exploring the boxes. Other bird species that use this area include blue-gray gnatcatchers, lots of different warblers, vireos, 2 kinds of orioles, mockingbirds, killdeer, kingfishers, green and great blue herons, many ducks, grebes, coots, and the occasional bald eagle. In addition, foxes, squirrels, rabbits, and deer and other little critters have moved in. This morning, a local bird watcher reported this. The woods at Salt Point were alive with bluebirds, yellow rump warblers, and close to a dozen golden crown kinglets. So that was just today. And there's lots of other ones. So as far as the content for the kiosk panels, we wanted to have brief information about several important topics that we feel people might want to know about here at Salt Point. First of all is the unique history of the salt factory here, one of Lansing's important early industries, which is tied to the stories of the early immigrants to Lansing. We wanted to give a little information about the geological reasons why this river delta floodplain is here, why it exists. We wanted something about some of the many plants that were here. That was a little hard to figure out, but we went with having some info about invasive plants and the 2 poisonous plants that occur here. We also wanted information about some of the non-bird life here at Salt Point. And we needed to have, of course, basic rules for the public who visit here. And these rules are based on Lansing regulations and DEC regulations. For instance, keeping the dogs on the leash and picking up dog waste and carrying out your picnic trash, that sort of thing. And of course, we have an acknowledgement panel that tried to give the names of everybody who helped make this place come to life. And so with the birds, we certainly couldn't write about all 230 species. So first we chose, of course, some interesting facts about the ospreys, because everybody likes the ospreys and they can see them pretty well. And then we decided to feature just a few general but neat facts about some of the other birds that occur here on Salt Point, on land and in the water around here. A lot of our material emphasizes the importance of good habitat for all wildlife, and because of the way it's now managed, Salt Point's small acreage provides these several types of habitat. Finally, Salt Point is managed by the town of Lansing, but it is a New York State DEC, Department of Environmental Conservation, holding, so deer and waterfowl hunting are allowed in the fall. So Salt Point now offers people a mix of uses that respects the culture of our town. Many volunteer community and corporation members, philanthropic groups, the town board, and some town of Lansing employees have worked hard to help make Salt Point a safe, lovely, and peaceful natural area, and it has happened in just 4 years. So thank you to everybody who made this possible. And now it's my pleasure to introduce Katie Howell and the singers from the 4th grade at the Lansing Elementary School. So.
Thank you for having us. The Friends of Salt Point, we're thinking that this is such a great place that a lot of Lansing students of all ages visit and enjoy with families, so they invited some musicians from the schools to come, and I thought, how about some 4th graders? So we're going to sing 2 songs for you today. The first is our national anthem. So we're going to sing.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight was the ramparts we watched, were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, did prove through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave for the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Our next song is an African American spiritual called Chatter with the Angels, and we have some moves that go with it as well. So we're going to sing it 1 time all the way through, and then 2 times in the round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm here. What do you want to say? Okay, so this is the first time, the second, but 1 time through all the way first. Chatter with the angels, daddy.
Chatter with the angels soon in the morning. Chatter with the angels all day long. Chatter with the angels soon in the morning. Chatter with the angels, sing that song. I want to sing that song and chatter with the angels all day long. I want to sing that song and chatter with the angels all day long. Chatter with the angels soon in the morning.
Next up, Larry Sharpsteen.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
You all have my name. Some of you even know me. I'm not quite as old as the story of this point, but almost. I can remember a time in this town when everybody that lived here had family that either farmed, worked for Cayuga Rock Salt, or International Salt. I had members of my family that worked in both places, and I can remember when International left here in the 60s. When the point was supposedly cleaned up, re-trashed and left in place, it was kind of a mess down here, and the state did clean it up a little bit when they put in the fish hatchery that was here for about 12 years, but then just kind of let it go again until they got into a partnership with the town. Now, I'm a hunter. I don't hunt deer down here because I think it's too confined a space to be perfectly safe, but that's my opinion. It is legal to hunt deer down here, but I do hunt waterfowl down here, and I've hunted waterfowl down here since the 70s. And the improvement in the place, both as a place to just try to walk into the blind, and also the cleanliness of the beach, since the town took it over and since the Friends of Salt Point picked up on taking care of the place, is unbelievable. For the first, I don't know, 15 or 20 years, it was a pigsty. People came down here and dropped whatever garbage they brought in with them, broken bottles, cans, diapers, as I've heard mentioned earlier tonight, or this afternoon, and nobody cared until the town came to an agreement with the state and took over management of the point. And then volunteer groups, including the Friends of Salt Point, came to the town with suggestions and offers to help. And believe me, it has helped. You may not credit it, but the beginning of fall season, at the beginning of winter season, this point draws people from Watertown, Syracuse, Binghamton, Albany, Plattsburgh, because our duck hunting season openings are staggered, and people come all the way down here because this is one of the few remaining spots on the lake where hunters can have public access, and it's one of the better ones. But one of the important things for us is the fact that hunters and non-hunters for years have successfully coexisted down here. And I think that we can continue to maintain that type of cooperation down here because we've got something worth hanging on to. Now, we're going to talk to somebody that knows a lot more about the history of Lansing than I do. And I'm going to ask Louise Bement to come up here and take over.
So how many people remember when it was here? 1, 2, Gus? Put your hand up, Gus. You remember when it was here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Not too many of us. I was just a bride when my husband brought me down here in 1955 and showed me the salt plant. In 1976, a project I did for the bicentennial year was research on Portland Point. So the next fall, Richard Solomon, Dick said to me, went to Joe, and he said, we got to do International Point because she did Portland Point, and we got it too, you know. So they got me a grant, and that's when the 4th grade and I did this book. In 1891, the International Salt Company started. It was called the Cayuga Lake Salt Company, and we have piece of paper where it shows what they bought, an invoice, and it has Cayuga Lake Salt Company crossed out with a red pencil and International written on top, and that was in 1892. So we not only can say it, we have proof.
Okay, so I didn't have time to get all of Louise Bement's comments at this event. I actually had to leave, and I didn't see the ribbon cutting, but you can go to, as I mentioned at the end there, to my video blog site, walkinthepark.tv, and look for Salt Point episode 119. It's done about a year ago, where she gives a detailed slideshow about the history of the salt mine at Salt Point. So you can also find out a lot more about Salt Point at the Friends of Salt Point Facebook page. They've got a lot of pictures there and a lot of ongoing stuff and good references. And then the Town of Lansing Parks and Recreation Department also has several pages on Salt Point. Excellent information, historical, natural history, and lots of other information about the park there. So I encourage you to take a look at that. So that's all the time we have today for Walk in the Park, and I hope you enjoyed it. And we'll see you again another time. So let's just have this final image here of Salt Point, and I'll switch to our final thing.